Hey, welcome to Sisters Unfiltered. Lindsay and Ashley here. We're excited to be here today. Coming up on a busy weekend for us, but before we get started, just like, comment, share, whatever. We would love that. We have been getting more comments, just maybe they're personally, I don't even remember, but like I feel like more people are commenting, just on Instagram and things like that. So that's exciting.
I feel kind of bad because I kind of forgot that we have an email address.
I didn't even know. You texted me and was like, "Hey, somebody did an idea on our email address," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I had no idea we had an email address."
So I had never checked it. And the other day I was like, oh, I need to check that email. And I had to find the password. Like, I've never checked it. And there was a person who sent in a request in September.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. I mean, where do they find the email address?
I don't know.
Where is it?
She said, I think she found us on YouTube. And she was like, I love y'all's podcast. I just have an idea. And I felt so bad. I emailed her and I was like, I am so sorry that I have not checked this email.
Yeah.
If that tells you anything of what kind of podcast
I know. I saw someone comment on TikTok and they said, I love y'all's clips or listening to y'all. And then I went to click on their profile. I have no idea who they are.
No, I think that was... So I just posted 2 clips this last week of from our teenager episode.
Yeah.
And we had the most movement we've had on TikTok ever.
Interesting.
And people are still sharing it and saving it and as their favorites. And I'm like, that's great. And to be honest, I'm not so sure those people are going and listening to our podcast. But the more we get it out there and people share us, the more people will eventually click on our podcast.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. So we are just getting ready. We have our big women's conference this weekend. So we're so excited. We're going to hang out with all of our friends from our church and be doing that. So Lindsay and I are ready to go. But we're doing our podcast a little bit earlier this week because of that. Mm-hmm. And our girls are going for the first time, our teenage girls. Well, Lindsay's oldest and my daughter Ella. And I'm really excited for that too.
I
don't know if they know what to expect, but I think they're gonna have fun.
No, I mean, Anne-Marie asked me if it's like Wave Conference, which is the student conference, which it is. It's similar. It's actually a little shorter than that. So they do know what to expect when it comes to that. But I'm excited just about our location. The women, there's 40 women coming from our location.
Yeah, I think 45.
45, which is actually really good.
Yeah.
For the size of our location as of now. And I'm so excited about them experiencing it. Yeah. And I genuinely love this women's conference.
Yeah, I do too. I love a women's conference anyway.
That's right.
But I do there's
a lot that's put into it and a lot of prayer. And, we went to it for years before we ever were a part of this church.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so now we're on the flip side of it and we get to see kind of the behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
I'm like, what am I trying to say? Behind the scenes, and it's just been really cool to see the behind the scenes in it, and truly
the thought and the intentionality and the love for women and wanting them to just have a time to experience God's word and worship and be together. And I just think I told this to our Bible study women's ministry thing last week. I was like, there's just very few times where you kind of pause life and are able to do that. And I just love that our church creates a moment and a weekend to do that.
Yeah. It's really such a good women's conference. I know there's a lot of women's conferences out there that are awesome. So I would love to encourage any of you women to attend a conference, a women's conference. But if you're in the Austin area and you don't know of one to go to, this happens once a year. It's at Celebration Church. It's called Radiant Women's Conference. And it's probably too late at this point for this one. And actually when you hear this episode, it's already going to be over now that I'm talking about
2027.
2027. Yeah. Please write it down and
I think
it's usually
it's the same. It's like March
4th
and 5th or something like that.
Well, I say it's always in March. It's bounced around.
Yeah, radiantconference.com.
Yeah. So anyways, it's amazing. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it.
It is. It's so good. So we're getting ready for that. But today we're excited because one of our listeners gave us this idea to talk about kids and calling and just kind of how you navigate that with your kids. And so we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah. And we were kind of on the calling in, purpose train as it is, because we had not our most recent episodes, but a couple episodes about women and being
Oh,
called.
yes. Yeah.
And, you know, kind of later in life and what that looks like. So why not talk about kids and calling on their lives?
Yes.
And how do you encourage that in them?
Mm-hmm. And maybe kind of just the tension of guiding them, but not controlling and putting, we've talked about this in the teenager podcast, like, I mean, episode, you know, kind of putting your wants and passions and maybe calling and talent on your kids because you think that's what they need best, and really God knows best and has really created them in such a way that he has a plan for each one of them that can look very different. And there's so many scriptures about that too, just in God's word, you know, just about how he does have in Jeremiah where God knows the plans he has for us, you know, and he has for our kids, how we train up our children the way they should go and they won't depart from it. I think that has to do with calling as much as it does with behavior, you know, or heart thing, you know, and they're created for good works in Ephesians. And so everyone is born with a purpose. And I think you have to believe that first and foremost, you know, that everyone's born with a purpose and that your kids are too. So
for sure. Totally agree with that. And it's clear in the Bible that it says that. So
sometimes it goes back to identity. It goes back to obedience. It's not, and when we say calling, I guess maybe we should kind of define what that is, because it's not so much like very specific, which it can be. So it's not like just your career or just your talent or just your gifting. It's kind of all encompassing. And then sometimes there's like assignments that we have that are for a season. But we're called for that season. So I don't want to like confuse people, but it's kind of a bigger topic than just like, oh, I feel really passionate about being a teacher. Or a mom or whatever. I think it's kind of bigger than that.
Absolutely. And I think that you can see gifts in your kids from a young age. And I think that could feed into what God has for them to do. Or I agree with you. It's hard to say calling because it's like there's not just one calling over us. You know what I'm saying?
There is one to be followers of Christ. That's
the
first
ultimate,
and
but
foremost.
I'm talking about the kind that we have been asked to speak about. I don't think I think that ultimately there, like you said, there's seasons for different things. So, and there's giftings and I think we can see gifts in our kids that they can't see yet. And I think that if we're doing what we should be doing as parents, that we can pray and ask the Lord, like, we
can help cultivate it.
Yes. Is this something we need to cultivate? And then guess what? It could fall flat. And that's also okay. I think what we have to be careful with as parents is, like you said, control, like attaching ourselves to the calling we think, like dying on that hill.
That's right.
Like that, I saw that in you when you were little, and that is what you're supposed to do. And I think that, and then you never leave room for anything else.
And I think sometimes like we can be called to something and it doesn't come to fruition for 20 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Or, you know what I mean? And so like, but it doesn't mean that those 20 years before that are wasted by any means. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Now that we're diving into it, I'm like, whew, this is a lot. Okay. But first of all, our primary calling is our relationship with Christ, for sure. Our secondary calling, and I love like how this is put, but it's how our kids' gifts, talents, unique makeup is there to serve other people. Truly. It isn't for us.
No, that's what I was going to say. I know our first calling is our relationship with Jesus, but I would say our next calling would be serving the kingdom. Like, what do we do on earth to serve the kingdom, which is to reach people for the Lord, which is to serve people. Right. So I would say that falls exactly into that.
What did you think about like calling and stuff as like a kid? Did you look at it like ministry? Did you like that was like full-time ministry as a call? Like, was it only calling you had? Like, how did that evolve? I was trying to think about this question earlier.
I mean, I don't remember thinking about calling. I mean, I remember that I was good. As a kid, I was really compassionate and good at helping people. And mom and dad used to be like, you would be such a good nurse. You know what I'm saying? You would be such a good nurse. And so like, I remember knowing, because they would say that I was compassionate for people, that I never would, again, mom and dad were very good about not attaching us to anything
Yeah.
like that. But I remember knowing that I was like compassionate and I was good. So I don't really remember, maybe once you get in high school, but ever like focusing in on calling necessarily. Did you?
I think I just thought of it. I always knew that it was something that always pointed back to Jesus.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And always had something to do with kingdom, like you said. Like I always knew calling was that. And then, you know, I think if you grow up in church, like you definitely go through times where you're like, what am I called to do? How has God gifted me? You know, and I think it's a combination of like passion, talent, gifts, seasons.
Yeah.
You know, that God puts in us. And so it's kind of a combination of all those things. But no, it's like I always kind of knew what calling was. I don't feel like it was like harped on very much, but I think as we served in the church, I think that's a huge thing. As we grew up, like our parents did a good job of really cultivating who we were.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't feel like
but I don't remember mom and dad saying like you're called to this or whatever.
I think that the reason why they didn't was because they did what you said. They would speak the word over us, which might not be a specific like you're called to this.
Well, it goes back to that identity piece.
Yes.
And you know,
but
something deeper.
I think where we heard about calling and purpose and giftings was through, for sure, the church, but youth group.
Yeah.
Through youth group. I think that
that's true.
I think that that's where, and again, this is why it's important that your kids are in something else like that, involved in church, is because I think there's a lot of that. I think they really teach your kids like, God has a plan for you and he has a calling on your life and he has a gift that he's gifted you with. And what do you think that is? Like that. And then the only way you're going to know that is to pray into it and ask for God's will to be done, that you're available, that you're kind of sitting there saying, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I really feel like that was, and I feel like that was very wise of mom and dad, because they probably didn't want us to feel like we were like that they were labeling us already.
Right.
And that they were telling us what our calling was. You know what I'm saying? They would pray with us in things. They would call things out in us, but they never attached the word, this is your calling.
Yes.
Now, obviously, I think if the Lord spoke to them, you know, they would probably do that if they felt led to, but I don't remember that. I think more youth group and youth camps and you know, is where that would.
Well, as parents, like when your kids are little, you can start to notice some things in them, right? Like you can start being aware of what lights them up, what frustrates them, maybe how they are in a friend group. I'm talking like 10 and under, you know, when they're little. I remember that. So Tyler, our oldest, I've talked about him a little bit. He's a creative. He's a musician. He can play all kinds of instruments, sing, all kinds of things like that. And Jeremy and I just didn't have a clue that this was something in him, you know, that neither one of us are very gifted in that area. And so, but our friend Brent was a musician, and Tyler was probably like, I want to say he was like 18 months old. I don't even know. Maybe he was a little bit older. And Brent was watching him. We were all in ministry together, and a musician came on the TV, and Tyler started keeping beat with this musician. And it was the first time that Brent, so somebody else in our life, called something out in our kid that we didn't even honestly kind of realize yet. And he was like, Tyler loves music. Like, I mean, I think that he is gifted in music. Okay, he's like 18 months old. I was like, okay, whatever. But from then on out, his interests were so much like he loved the Wiggles, which I don't know if you guys know what the Wiggles is, but it's like this Australian kid band. And he was obsessed with them. And we had a microphone and we had a guitar and he started playing the drums when he was 3. And like, again, not on Jeremy and I's radar for sure, because we were not gifted in that area. Because sometimes you think like, oh, well, genetically your kids do sometimes get things that you're gifted in. And I think God does that in our families. But for this one, it was just kind of out of the blue. We did not even realize it. And I just think I see God's hand from that moment and what Tyler does now. He leads worship, and just, it's so cool to see that developed. And for a season of time, and we'll get to this in a minute, in high school, he wasn't doing that much. He did play the guitar some, but it was kind of like he tried to do a lot of other things that were more popular, that were more, you know, what teenagers want to do. And then God kind of just brought him back to to his calling.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to see.
Yeah.
You know, it just really stood out. But from the time he was little, like, is there anything you can think of in your kids from when they were like maybe 10 and under that you were like, okay, interesting, you know?
Oh, for sure. I mean, Parker was it's actually funny because it seems to be the more musical kids, but Parker was the same way. We, you know, when he was like under the age of 2, he loved to beat on a drum. He loved stuff like that. And what's funny is we put him in a kinder music class, which is hilarious. We weren't sitting there being like, oh, he's going to be a musician.
Yeah.
We didn't think anything about it. We just were like, oh, he enjoys it. And then he didn't do anything. Parker was funny. He's my only kid that's ever been like this. Parker went through a time in middle school, I think it was middle school, where he was bothered because he wanted to know his gift.
That's interesting.
And he would say to me, Mom, what do you think I'm gifted at? I don't know if he was in youth group and they were talking about, or maybe it was before middle school, but he was older. He wasn't like super young. And he was so like bothered by it. Like, what is my gift? What do you think my gift is? And it was just so funny because at the time we didn't even know, because Parker didn't start playing music until 8th grade. And we did not even know. So, you know, he had that time when he was younger. I have a picture of him. A photographer came to our house, and he's probably 2 or 3. No, he had to have been 2. Micah was a baby, and I was getting Micah's pictures taken. And Parker, the cutest little bowl cut, playing a guitar.
Yeah.
Like, I have a literal picture of him playing in a guitar, sitting in the grass. So cute. And then fast forward, you know, to 8th grade, and he starts playing instrument.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool because like Parker wanted so bad to know, and I have been able to round back to that and be like, remember when you cared so much about wanting to know what your gift, one of your gifts is?
Yes.
And that is music. Like that's one of Parker's, you know? But then it's funny because like we weren't hyper focused on this with any of our kids. I'm with you. Like, I feel like you spot things in your kids and you just say, man, you're good at that. Like, that's so good. But I'm not going to put them in a box and say, that's it. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing, which I think maybe happens more than we realize with parents, or more with sports, maybe.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes it's unintentional.
Unintentional. That's right. But anyways, my point is, it's funny. The opposite thing happened with Micah. Micah has always been like more of an athlete. Like, that's always been his jam.
Yeah.
He was more of an athlete. He's always had good hand-eye coordination. 5 years ago, I would have said Micah's not musical. Like, that's not his thing. He's never been interested in it, never cared about it. And like, I don't know what it was, 2 years ago, in the summer, he was like, I'm going to learn how to play the guitar. And we were like, okay, whatever. He picks up an acoustic, plays every single day. Yeah. And he is so good. He plays acoustic and he's learning the electric right now. Yeah. And I'm like, what? I would have never seen that coming. If I would have pegged Micah's calling back when he was younger, I would have never said.
Yeah.
And again, calling is one of his gifts. Let me say that. Not calling.
One of his gifts that he can use for the kingdom.
You can use for the kingdom. You know? And so, like, I don't think that calling is so big. It's so much bigger than that. But anyways.
I think it's good, though, to talk about how as parents we can help cultivate this and help them see the things that God has put in them that's unique and just them. I mean, and another example I think about is Sam. He has been a leader from kindergarten, but for a while that sometimes didn't go in the right direction. He was a leader. He was leading in the wrong way. You know what I mean? But we did know, like, God's going to use this kid one day in a mighty way, but we're going to have to steer him in the right direction. Yes. But it was obvious that leadership was something he was gifted in.
It was very, very strong.
Very strong, obvious. Very early. Yes. Yeah. You know? And then you'll have other kids that it might take a little bit more for you to kind of realize, like, not the things that they're necessarily good at, but kind of like that they're just a little bit more under the radar. Sometimes it can be very obvious, is my point. Sometimes you need other people to speak into their life and tell you, like, hey, you know, your kid's probably pretty good at this. You know, or sometimes kids can kind of fly under the radar, and you kind of have to really pray and ask God to help you to kind of see those things, call those things out in your kids. But I think you can start to see those even when they're younger. But I think it's important what Lindsay said that our parents did, and that is to just speak identity over them, right? Like, and those things are true no matter what, that you're just speaking the word over them. You're telling them who they are, how God made them, you know, what God's called them and everyone to, but reminding them from 10 under, like, you're just speaking life over them and what they're going to do. And honestly, you do it not even knowing what the future holds, but you're just doing it because you're like, this is what God's word says.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. And because again, as much as we believe that God has a calling on our lives and purpose and gifts, again, it's not what defines us.
Right.
It's not where our worth is.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like,
and it's probably better to be like noticing character things and broader things, and like specifically like you're an athlete, you're going to play in the NFL one day. That's not what I'm talking about.
No.
You know, it's just a little bit different. But do you want to share what you were telling me earlier?
Yeah, no, I just loved, like, Mom and Dad prayed this over us a lot, and I actually love to speak this over my kids and just in my quiet time or over them. But and I've probably spoken about this scripture on here, but it's Daniel 1:4, and it says, and what Mom would do and what I do is I'll fill my kids' names in it. So it's like, Parker, you are youth without blemish, of good appearance, skillful in all wisdom, endowed with knowledge, understanding, learning, and competent to stand in the king's palace.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of just, I don't know, I like love that scripture so much. And I know I feel like I say that about a couple different scriptures, but I love it because like it's so strong, and it's like it's talking about even like you're good looking, like you know, so that is something that kids struggle with, like being confident in what they look like. You're youth without blemish. You are beautiful. But not only that, you're smart. You have wisdom. And I love in understanding, but I love the end where it says, and you get to stand in the king's court. And so back when this was written, it was an honor to stand in the king's court. And I am like, because it's talking about Daniel, and I'm like, but that I speak over my kids. And that's what Mom and Dad spoke over us. And to me, that covers it all. It covers it all, right? So like, it covers everything. It says you are gifted. Yes. You are going to succeed. You are confident in who you are because you get to stand in the king's court. And I don't know. I love it. I'm super passionate about it. And I think that if your kids can understand that and understand that God does have something for them, that it falls into place organically and in the time that God wants it to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think what we have to be careful is not hyper focusing on it.
Right. Yeah.
Or not focusing on it at all.
Yeah.
And so, right. So I think you can go one direction or the other, like hyper focusing on one thing that you think your kid is so good at, and that's all, or never even acknowledging the fact to your children that like God has you were gifted.
Yeah. You know? I think too at those ages, like when they're young, like just create exposure, but not pressure. Yeah. You know, like let's just make environments where they can try a lot of different things. If you can do that, let them try different things. I think what we talked about, serving together in a church, being in the church, you know, you sometimes can see giftedness in kids also. Like our girls absolutely love to serve in kids' church. And like, it's one of Ella's favorite things that she does.
My kids,
I mean,
love
she loves it, but I don't know if she would have had that opportunity otherwise, especially because she's only 15 right now. And just that opportunity to do that. And then I think also that we are modeling what God's called us to do as parents, and that they see that and that we talk about that.
Yes.
You know, I think sometimes we forget to talk to our kids about those things, you know, like, and isn't bragging about yourself because that's a God thing, but like saying like, you know what, God's given me this opportunity and I think he's called me to do it. And you're speaking and telling your kids those things.
Yeah, I have. So just, you know, we have 5 kids each. So you're going to have all over the spectrum of kids, like you said, that some of their gifts are more obvious than others. And some care more about knowing their gifts. Well, I have one kid and she is gifted in music and we've had to push her. And we did not have to push our boys in that area. And I even was like, Lord, am I right for making her do something? Because that's been hard because I don't want to force my kids to do something. But I know that the reason why she's nervous and that's why that's what's holding her back. But we see the passion, we see her being gifted. But what I was going to say about you modeling that is we have really encouraged her, which she loves it. But one thing I've done is I've been, you know, being asked to do some things at church that make me super nervous. But I've done them. I've talked to her about it.
Yeah, that's great.
I've been like, hey, like I got asked to do this one thing and I'm going to be honest, I want to say no. Yeah. Because it makes me nervous and I get real nervous when I'm up there, but I'm like, but I'm not going to not I'm not going to let nerves be what keeps me back from the Lord using me if this is the area he wants me to be used in.
Right.
And so I've been able to talk to her about it, and then just all different things. And so it's been cool because I think she sees me being nervous.
Yeah.
It's not just her who's nervous. It's me too. And I think that gives our kids, like when we kind of share our experiences with them, instead of them just watching us get on stage.
Right.
Oh, my mom just does that. Like she doesn't care. Like that's not hard for her.
Yeah.
They see that.
Right.
The
We're taking them through it with us,
yes.
you know?
Yeah. And of course you can't like zone in on it and be like, oh, I'm so nervous, whatever. You just have to be careful how you like talk about it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just think that's right. I think leading by example is another thing. I really think churches, I feel like every one of our episodes we're like church.
Yeah.
But truly, how else do you, so gifting and calling is not just athletic ability or so my point is like, I guess, like, how else would you even know what your kids could be good at if they're not in like a church environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can, yes. I mean, I think it is exposure. Being in a church environment helps. I think it can magnify and elevate those things quicker because you're in that environment. But I also think just being aware. I mean, I think like different giftings.
You do, but I guess I'm just
and passions. And
I guess I'm more, and you can without being in a church environment. That's not what I'm saying. I just guess I'm thinking like as they get older, because when they're younger, you can be like, oh, they're like so athletic, or look, they like music, or they're so compassionate. But I think as they get older, I guess maybe my question is this: where are people putting their kids in an environment where they can see that more?
Yeah.
If it's not church.
Yeah.
As they get older.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean,
because it's more than just ability sometimes. I don't know. Anyways, it's just, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. I can understand. I can see it in school stuff, or like, like student council, like seeing your kid really lead in that way, or being in the choir at school. So I can see all that, but you're not there as much to really know, kind of really see the giftings and stuff. Anyways, church to me is just a much easier way to go about it. But go ahead. Sorry.
I think we can pray over their gifts. We can pray that God would help us to see them, for them to see their gifts. You can ask them to be praying to hear God's voice as well, when they're that age. And then that they just like are obedient in it. Just like your example with one of your kids about like being nervous, but still saying yes, like you being nervous and still saying yes, like being open to that, which I think is awesome. But also like, and we kind of just touched on this, but as they get into those middle school and teen years, I do think that's where fear creeps in.
Yeah.
And like, I do think that's when you're more aware of certain things, being nervous. For instance, we talked about this too. We always made our kids do talent show, and our brother also with his kids. And I feel like all of us did that so that they wouldn't be scared to be on a stage.
Yeah. So that is one thing that I've tried to tell other people this in our school, that I make our kids do theater arts for 1 year.
Oh yeah, middle school.
In middle school, because of that reason too. And I try to explain, because I know theater arts can be a little liberal. And so you kind of have to be careful of that. But the theater arts in our middle school, it's not like that. It's like a bunch of skits. But it's the same thing. I've tried to tell people, I really believe that one reason why my boys have so easily gone on stage and played instruments is because of theater arts in the talent show.
Yes.
Because they've just had exposure to being on stage, and they're just like, okay, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
I do think that helps.
Oh, I do think it helps. I mean, I think it helps them know if they want to do something or if they don't.
Yeah.
Yes. Like sometimes you try stuff and you say, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But I think middle school going into high school, also it's a great time to ask a lot of questions. Hey, what are you passionate about? What gives you life? I think if you ask somebody 10 and under that, they're like, what are you talking about? But to act, because they're coming into their own.
Yeah.
They are adopting, a lot of times starting to adopt their faith as their own, not just yours.
Yeah.
They want, like Parker asking, like, I want to know, what am I good at? I think middle school is a huge identity time for kids, where they want to know who they are, what they're good at, where they belong, all of those things. And this can really play into that, And so, it's, instead of telling them, I think it's more of a guiding them in that. And so those have to be questions and conversations.
Yeah, and also, sorry, this is me. I might be going off on left field here, but have you ever done anything that you're like, you're just thinking, you know what? Maybe they like this. And you just go like sign them up for a class or get them something.
That doesn't go so well. Depending on the kid.
Yeah, but like, you're just like trying. So like Ava May, I think she has an artistic side to her.
Yeah.
I don't think she's very musical, but hey, joke's on me sometimes. I didn't think Micah was either. So
Yeah.
Ava May might show me that she's musical. But she's never been like into dancing like the girls used to love to dance. Like she's never done, she'll do it, but it's just not her thing. So she is a good artist.
Yeah.
And so I was like, girlfriend can draw. She's so good. And I bought her stuff, like gifts, like paintings.
Oh, right.
Like stuff to paint, thinking like she is going to love this. And she's just never really cared.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I missed the memo.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought she would love it.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's us helping cultivate it.
Yeah. And
Even if we're wrong,
Yeah.
we're just trying to help different things.
But I think as they get a certain age, older, you can ask them.
Oh,
you
for
know,
sure.
like
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, I meant more when they're younger.
Yeah, you can talk about it and you can,
Yes.
yeah, like, I mean, to me, it's also like how like your kids, and this is going back to when they're younger, but they have interest in things that like, I don't care if you put a truck in front of a kid or put a Legos in front of them.
Yeah.
They're probably going to choose one that they're passionate about. Some kids love trains and trucks, and some kids love Legos, and some kids love, you know, heroes, and some kids love sports. And like I know my boys, they definitely had things that they were drawn to from an early age, you know, and you can start to see their passions. And one thing I've said before on this podcast, I don't want to say again, is like, as a parent, it's so good to be what they're into. You know, like even if it's not what you're into, maybe it's something that you have never, like you can get uncomfortable for a little bit and be into what they're into. And I think it's going to help your relationship with them, because it might be something just out of left field that you just never, ever thought of before, you know? But, and so I feel like in those middle school, high school years, you're kind of navigating that with them and doing it together. But what about like when your kid wants to quit something they've done for a long time? Or it kind of changes, you know, like their passion or their dream or whatever. Like I remember, again, I personally don't, kids can be athletic and good at sports. I don't know how much that has to do with calling. I think they can be used for sure, for the kingdom and stuff. But like, I remember Wade quit baseball, like, I don't know, he had played for years and then started playing tennis and went on and played in college. But like, and I'm not even talking about sports necessarily, but kind of when something shifts and changes, like as a parent, maybe you're disappointed or whatever. Can you think of anything like that?
I don't really feel like my kids have done that necessarily. Like for Micah to graduate early, he quit lacrosse and he wasn't in that forever. And I loved watching Micah play lacrosse.
Yeah.
And he was a good player. But he never wanted to play in college. So and I also knew, you know, like I gave Micah options. Like I was like, because the whole deal was that if he was skipping his junior year, then he was going to have to play on varsity. And there was all these players that played his position that were way better than him. And he just said, I'm never going to play. And it wasn't pity party. It was just, that's the facts.
Yeah.
And so I, you know, gave him options. Like, do you want to play? Do you want to grind and get good this summer and play varsity? I gave him options and he was like, no, I'm good with this. So like that didn't bother me. I will say like Parker is a very good bass player and he is in college right now, his freshman year, and he's not playing anywhere. And I've had to really just be like, Lord, you're going to work it out. And if that is what you have for him to do, when the time is right, God's going to open up doors for him to play. Yeah. But he plays every day in his dorm room.
Yes.
You know? And so like that has been something for me, like not disappointing at all.
Right.
But more so like I've had to just keep my mouth shut.
It's such it's such a balance in high school and college as even having adult kids. There's such a balance in parenting. I think it's where the Holy Spirit comes in, because it's like you see things in them that maybe they don't see. And so you want to push in that direction if they can't. You don't want them to play it safe. You want them to step out. Also, depending on their dreams, I can have a tendency to be a dream crusher.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, that just seems a little too out there or too big or whatever. But in some ways, I feel like God said, you know, just some dreams that Sam had in high school that like, I feel like if Jeremy and I would have been like, yeah, you can't do that, I just can't imagine. I feel like we would have been stopping something
Yeah.
that happened, that has happened just with ministry and stuff. And so it's just that constant dance and balance with each individual kid.
Yeah.
So this is so very individualized. And I mean, I need the Holy Spirit in me to lead me, guide me in, and do I push? Do I back off?
That's my thing.
Do I say something? Do I not? Do I get someone else around them that's a leader or a friend to kind of, I don't know.
Speak into
it. Yeah. Because we have had all of those situations and more. Yeah. Like with all of our kids, honestly.
It's just like this.
But it's not a bad thing.
No, it's just like a balance. And it's just knowing like that, the Lord has a plan, but how can we as parents make sure that we do the best we can with encouraging it, but not being pushy.
Yes.
But maybe also there's times where we do have to step in and say, you're not going to quit that. Now, once they're adults, you can't do that. Or college, really.
No,
But ideally. But when they're younger, you can. And so it is a very hard balance. Like, that's why I had a hard time with Anne-Marie, because I was like, I see gift in her. Derek does too. But how much do we make her do?
Yes.
And I remember I would just say, like, you have to give it a chance.
Yeah.
Like, whatever it is, you're going to give it a chance. Or I'm going to tell you this, parents, we sometimes let our kids say yes and no to things because they're getting these text messages and all this stuff that we don't know about.
Yeah, that's true too.
And I have to have conversations with our kids, like, and I probably need to have one right now, actually. Like, hey, if you get asked to do something, you come and talk to me.
Yes.
Like, you're not allowed to answer.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I think, are giving their kids too much freedom in that. And their kids just might not feel like doing it that day.
Yeah.
And so they just say no. And I just feel like we have to help to do that. But let me just say this. What I don't want to do is I'm not going to say who this person is, but I know someone who they were in a very musical family, and that the parents never taught them any instruments or anything. Never even asked or even, said, like, do you want to play something? Even though they knew how to play.
Yeah.
And led worship and all this stuff. And then now that person, as a grown adult, plays instruments and is so good.
Yeah.
But says, and this person's not mad at their parents, but they say, like, they just are like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why did they never teach me
Yes.
or even give me the opportunity to play anything? Because this person has a real gift. And it's like, they would probably be so much further along or so much more confident had they been given that opportunity from their parents all those years ago.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to be careful with, is like, it's just a balance.
Yeah.
Like, making sure we're giving the opportunity, which sometimes opportunities are also money, and sometimes we don't have the money for that.
Oh,
and that's
yeah,
okay
absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
That is okay too.
But if they are called to something, and if they are supposed to be doing it eventually, God will make a way for
He
that
will
to
open
happen.
up doors,
Yes.
and He will make a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't let finances and things like that make you be scared that your kids are going to miss it, because I think that's a lie from the enemy as well.
Is. Yeah.
Because there are definitely times in our season of parenting and lives that we couldn't, afford for our kids to be taking a million lessons in different things or whatever the opportunity was. But God always made a way and opened doors for it, and so you don't have to be so. But I think listening to the Holy Spirit, praying, having the conversation with your kids, so at least they're exposed to even know that God made them to do something.
Yeah.
And to do something big for Him and what that looks like. But
and I think you're right. I think you hit it right. Is us as parents being willing to say yes, especially if they have this grand idea, like in high school, that we feel like is so inconvenient to us.
Yes.
That has been Micah said yes to getting these worship people every month for LT Collective. And I'm over here like, why did you do that? Because it's so hard to make sure you have someone leading worship at LT Collective every month. And I am like, why did you say yes to that, Micah?
Yes.
And I am so proud of him, because he did, and he's done it, and God has provided, and he has had times where it stressed him out, but he's been able to see the Lord provide. And I'm over here like, you know what, Lord, if I would have said no to that, nope, you're not doing it.
I have done the same thing on the smallest scale. Like Grayson took on getting the bus for prom. Okay, that is what an adult does
yes.
normally, but
Yeah.
he took it on himself in high school to do it. That's everybody has to pay money.
a
He
lot.
has to contact
Yeah.
the driver. He has to make sure they show up all the times. And like so badly, I wanted to be like, Grayson, do not take that on. Please don't take that on. Like let somebody else do it. Let a parent do it. Whatever. It's usually the girl moms, by the way. Shout out girl moms. They take care of all those details. But he wanted to do it, and he was just so. And I don't think it was actually easy, but I actually think he learned some leadership skills and some planning skills and some like, some conversations about, Grayson, you can't control it because you're working with a group of people. You have to be open to things. Like, it was really good. Part of me wants to say, don't do it, because you know what? I don't want to be bothered by it. And I also know that sometimes those things can backfire on you. But then I'm like, you know what? This is good for him to do.
It is.
But sometimes in the process, I'm not like, oh, yay, I'm so glad you're doing this.
Me too. I'm like, I wish I would have never said yes to this.
Yeah.
But it is. And so I do think that I know we're not being specific, because there's no handbook written on how do you know what your kids are called to do? How do you cultivate giftings in them? There's nothing besides the word of God in speaking over them and exposing them to it, but also not being so hung up on it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, besides that, we can't give the answer to, I can't tell you. Like, I know this. I know our kids are called to serve the Lord.
Yeah.
And to do, and He has gifted every single one of them with something that only they can do 100%. To serve His kingdom.
Yes.
And they're going to do it. Because, you know why? Because Derek and I believe that they're going to do it. And we speak that over them. And as parents, I just want us to be open to whatever it is God wants us to do from now until when they're adults.
Yes.
That we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did this talk not very long ago just about gifting and like fruit of the Spirit, right? And how like your gifts is something that comes easy to you that might not come easy to someone else, right? Yeah. You can see those things in your kids, you know those things in yourself. But fruit development is character development, but all of that goes together with your kids and teaching them about calling, about identity, those kind of things. So as a parent, we have to cultivate both of those things.
That's right.
And not be so heavy on one or the other, but they have to be both. That's because we have a tendency to be more heavy on the gifting than in the character building, which is actually harder and takes a lot more work and intentionality. Yeah. But I'll read a couple of these things and then you can tell me what you think about them. But there's a few ways we can, and we've talked about it, we can help our kids discern their calling. We can affirm identity before ability. I think that's important. Like, hey, we used to tell Sam, like, you're good at football, but that's not like who you are. Yeah. Football's not who you are. Yeah. That's not your identity. You're good at it, but it's not who you are. Expose them to service. We talked about that. Because that also, you can see a lot of people's passions come out in serving. Teach them to listen to God. That's just cultivating their own relationship with the Lord. Encourage risk-taking. And sometimes it's going to be risk-taking as the parent and the kid, that's right. I think. And then just like kind of model that it's your own calling and journey. Like and so like pitfalls, opposite of that is projecting like unfulfilled dreams. We talked about that. Like as parents trying to put something on our kids that maybe isn't theirs. Comparing siblings. We didn't even talk about that, but that's a big one.
That is a big one.
It is a big one that you have to really navigate and be careful about. It kind of goes back to sometimes how the giftings are more obvious. We have a tendency to latch onto that.
And praise that.
And praise that.
And be very loud about one that might be like very obvious, but then the other one that might not be as obvious.
Correct.
And if you're doing that, which I think it's easy to fall into that.
It is, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I've fallen into it for sure, not even realized it. But find something about the one that's not so obvious that can be praised also. Yeah. Although again, we have to be careful praising our kids for their abilities, but I still think it's encouraging. It's calling out in them that they're good at things, just praying that we as parents recognize when the Holy Spirit's speaking to us.
It's just something to avoid, right? Comparing siblings. Yeah. I love this one. Equating calling with income.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we just know that's not always the case.
No.
No,
I agree.
Confusing comfort with God's will. That's also a pitfall to avoid. And then just over spiritualizing normal development as well. Sometimes that goes back to that character development, right? Like we're not going to, I don't know. We just have to be very careful on how we're teaching our kids these things, how we're exposing them to it. I don't know. What do you think about those?
You did over spiritualizing normal
Yeah.
development? Oh, I missed that. Sorry. I was reading them. I think
that might mean like just praising something that is just, I don't know. What do you think that means?
over spiritualizing normal development. Oh, for sure. I think it's over spiritualizing would be like, like just normal things your kids do, and you being like, oh, that's God's will for your life. Oh, you were able to, throw a football.
Yeah.
Well, God's will is for you to be a quarterback. Like it's like that lady that came up to us in the stands that one time when Sam was playing football, and her child was like, what, 8 years old? She was like, She was like, my son's going to be the Lake Travis QB. You know what? That's great. I'm glad you think that. To me, that's over.
Yeah.
Like he's 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Like maybe he will be.
Yeah.
You know what? I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
But he might not be. And you're over. Spiritualizing would not be the word for that. But you're just like overdoing it. It's just like you're way into everything that everything is their calling.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, you can cook. You're going to be a chef. God says it, It's just like always using the word, the Lord's will.
Yes.
You just probably have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
I think that, I think for sure projecting your unfulfilled dreams, I think that is I think that's probably a huge pitfall for a lot of people. And you don't even realize that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Good thing for me is I never had unfulfilled. I never had dreams. I believe my dreams were met.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do think, and I'm laughing about that, but like, I never tried to be some huge singer or performer. I think what happens is when parents wanted to be something big and they never were able to, I feel like you see that a little bit more in big things.
Yeah. And I think too, like to the parents' defense, you love your kids so much.
That's right.
You want what they want. You want them to be happy, whatever makes them happy. You want them to be happy. And I think that's like a normal parent thing.
And sometimes you want what you didn't get to have.
That's true too.
And so you're just trying to give them something that you didn't get to have.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
I just think it's not hanging your hat on it.
That's right.
I think that's
because that's where the disappointment might come in later.
Or your kid
and that
feels
kind of
like
thing.
the only thing they can do to make you happy is to do that one thing.
Right. Or they are so good at this thing, this talent, and they do it forever, and then it goes away after high school or after college, and then
what? Yeah, exactly.
And so those are just the things we need to be careful about. But
I also do think they're right about confusing comfort and with God's will. I think that is because guess what? A lot of times these things are not always easy.
Yeah, no.
They're not comfortable. They're actually pushing you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, stretching you a little bit.
They are. And so like comfort is not always, I think where you have to be careful with that is confusing comfort and peace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But anyways, those are good. I think those are really good. I was still stuck on the whole teaching them to listen for God. But I was stuck on that. That's what I was reading earlier. I think that's a big one. I know we talked about that. But I think like anytime, if your kids ever do come to you, which they might not, like Parker was the only one out of 5 kids that asked me what his gifting was. And it's teaching your kids like, hey, if you want to know that, like Dad and I will pray with you, but you ask the Lord to show you what you're good at.
Yeah.
And it's teaching them. And I know you kind of touched on it, but it's just teaching them to like, hear what or like Micah, like when he wanted to play guitar. I mean, I didn't say this, but I probably should have. Like, that's awesome. If that's what you want to do, ask the Lord for help and he will help you do it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I almost see it like a scale. Like when your kids are little, like the scale is way up on the parenting, discernment, your relationship with the Lord side. Yeah. As they get older, that scale starts to come down, get even. And then as they're a young adult, the other side should be high because they have a relationship with the Lord. They're hearing from the Lord. Exactly. You know what I mean? And to me, that's what it kind of looks like in parenting kids and with everything, but especially their calling, their identity, who they are, that they are taking that ownership.
They have to.
Of what God's called them to.
And I think we have to teach them to do that.
Yeah.
That even though, like you said, when they're younger, it's like kind of under our control.
Yes, it is.
And then it's like the older they get, it's our job to teach them that the Lord speaks to you just like he speaks to me. Do I think that prayer from parents is powerful? For sure. Yeah. But I also think it is more powerful if it's coming from them.
Yeah. And I mean, this might not sound great, but like I kind of feel like the weight is heavier on us. And then we start handing them that weight. Like the weight is on you.
It's true.
As you get older.
Yeah, it's just like teaching your kids to pray for, if they're sick, to pray for their own healing, like the older they get.
Yeah.
Like, truly, like, because we're having to pass the baton.
Right.
Truly.
Yes.
Like, right? Like, we're having to say, hey, like, and mom and dad were so good about that stuff. Like, okay, we did this. We did it for you, with you, alongside you, and now it's not that we're not still doing it alongside them. Of course, but now it's going to be you're doing it for yourself, and it's like, and then God is so clear in his word that, like, it is powerful for us to be speaking over our own selves. Like, we have authority.
Yeah.
Like, our kid. So once your kid does have authority, it's in spiritually.
Yes.
Anyways. Yeah. I don't know.
But I think it's good. It doesn't all ride on us.
No.
God has a calling for them, and like, we don't have to manufacture that.
No.
We can let God lead us in that. And then just that, and we've said this too, God loves our kids more than we do. And that's hard to comprehend, hard to wrap your mind around.
For sure.
But he loves them more than we do.
For sure. And our decisions, I just always just think, like, what do I know? Because God, I mean, really, like,
right.
I mean,
I never want to limit.
I never want to limit what God has for them.
And
I don't want to control them when it comes to anything. Gosh, I would feel so bad if they didn't feel like they could do what God has called them to do because we were holding them back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. So, okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I kind of enjoyed that too. I was like, this is really, because we still have kids in this process, by the way.
For sure.
Like, we haven't, come to the end of that by any means. And so this is really good to conconcentrate on for me today.
Yeah,
just
some good reminders of what to pray for, how to be, how to encourage.
Maybe to ask some questions for me. I was thinking of questions that I probably need to ask Ella, that I just haven't lately. Because sometimes you think you can think for them, but honestly, it might surprise you asking them some questions.
It does. It really does. Yeah. And I think too, like, one thing we didn't touch on is, and I know I touch on this all the time, is teaching your kids to be confident in who they are.
Yeah.
Because I do think that helps a lot.
Yeah. But I think if you're doing this stuff, that's going to happen naturally.
That's what I was going to say. I think if you're doing that, they are walking in confidence. And if your kid isn't confident in who they are, it's not too late.
Yeah.
You start working on it now.
Yes.
What do they want? What do they want to do?
Yeah.
What is their ideas? Maybe some of them are terrible. I don't know, but you never know.
Yeah. I think I have confession of the week this week. Remember? We do not judge. We observe.
We observe. We do not judge.
We're just observing. We're not judging.
Yep.
No, I'm just kidding. I kind of went back and forth between two of them, and maybe I'll just save the other one for another time. But this is really a funny one, and actually it's turning a little bit. And some people, my friends, all know this. But like, my confession of the week is that I sometimes love when Jeremy goes out of town. And I feel bad because we've been married 27 years this month. Yes, 27 years this month. And he is like my best friend. We do so much together, all that kind of stuff. But I remember he barely went out of town, and hardly ever when we were raising our kids or anything like that. And I'm thankful. I would not have to say all this. I would not want a husband that travels for me, for us having 5 kids, for just our teamwork. That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love that he's home. We do everything together. We're so close. But I remember getting giddy when he would go out of town just for a couple of days or whatever. Cause I'm like, oh my gosh, I can watch the shows I want to watch, which are probably girly shows that he doesn't want to watch. We'll eat cereal for dinner. I'm not going to make dinner. Has Jeremy ever said, Ashley, you can't watch this show or you can't have cereal for dinner?
It's just expectations you put on yourself. It's just what you do.
Right. And I think it was just, honestly, being a stay-at-home mom, I kind of feel like it was just breaking up the routine a little bit, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now, funny enough, I was just thinking about this too. He has gone out of town a few times this last year or whatever, more, and actually I'm kind of bored. Every show we watch together. And so I don't watch it without him.
You can't watch it without him.
And then a lot of our kids are out of the house, and it's just Ella and I. And Ella and I have a great time too. But she might be on the phone with her friends or whatever. And I'm like, man. And so it's just funny because for a long time I'd be like, Jeremy's out of town. Also having the whole bed to myself, you know what I mean? And I feel like it's a confession because I always feel bad when I say that, because then I always have people like you who are like, I don't really like my husband to go out of town. I just like to be with him 24/7. And it makes me feel bad. And I feel bad too because Jeremy's so sweet. He's always He doesn't feel the same way, I don't think. Maybe he does. I should ask him.
Yeah, you should ask him. I know so many people who feel that way. And for some reason, I just have never, like, I'm not like, oh, well, first of all, Derek's the same way. It doesn't travel hardly ever. But I'm like, I don't like it when Derek goes out of town, but I'm not like, but I do like it I like it sometimes when Derek's home in the mornings and goes into work later. And then there's some mornings when I'm like, okay, can you go to work? You know, like.
So in the same way.
It's the same thing. Yeah. So my point is, I don't totally feel. The only time I've ever felt a little bad is when we have taken our beach trips with the girls, is when we've all, not the girl, our friends.
Yeah.
Sorry, not our kids, our friends. And we're only gone for like 2 nights or 3 nights, 2 nights, 3 nights.
3,
and
I think.
I always feel bad because I love it so much. I'm not quite ready to come home.
Right.
And I'm like, I feel so guilty.
Right.
Because I don't feel quite ready to come home yet, but I wouldn't want to stay much longer. But I'm always
right. You're like, I would just like one more night.
Day. And
yeah.
I'm like, that means I have literally felt guilty for that.
Yeah.
But I do really like Derek to be here. But I have heard, I have a friend who listens to our podcast who just told me this the other day, and she loves to be with her husband, but she was traveling. He was gone for a couple nights, and she was like, I'm going to be honest. I feel really bad saying the same thing. I feel so bad saying this, but I really like it when he goes out of town.
Yeah.
But just for 2 nights.
Yes.
Like not any longer.
Oh, I feel the same way. Like
Nights,
I don't want him gone longer than like 2 nights for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no.
just for a long time I felt really bad about that. But actually the tables are they're kind of turning a little bit.
Yeah, but you shouldn't feel bad about it because everybody
I do.
I have heard more people say that don't.
Yeah.
So, but for whatever reason, I just don't know.
Yeah,
it's
so funny.
Here, but yeah, that's
anyway,
so
confession
funny.
of the week. I'll save my other one for a couple weeks.
Ladies, is there anybody else out there that feels the same way? Because I have a feeling there's a lot of women out there that feel the same way. Mom, I think, felt that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think I remember.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we'll chat later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.